I arrived 15 minutes early to what I thought was our monthly family lunch. The peach cobbler I'd spent the morning baking sat warm in my hands, the same recipe my mother had taught me 50 years ago. I'd been making it for these gatherings for the past 3 years, ever since my husband Robert passed and Scarlett started hosting them at her house. Subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and comment the city you're watching from. The doorbell echoed through the 2-story colonial I knew so well. Every window, every shutter, every carefully planted rose bush in the front garden. I waited, listening to the familiar sounds of conversation and laughter drifting from inside. My heart felt lighter already, anticipating Jake's bear hug and even tolerating Madison's polite but distant smile. The door opened, but instead of my grandson's enthusiastic greeting, Scarlett stood there. My 34-year-old daughter looked uncomfortable, almost guilty, as she blocked the doorway with her body. "Mom, what are you doing here?" The words hit me like a physical blow. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. "It's Sunday. Family lunch. Like always." Scarlett glanced over her shoulder, then back at me. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "You weren't invited today. This is just for close family." Close family. The words echoed in my mind as I tried to process what she just said. I was her mother. I'd given birth to her, raised her, sacrificed everything for her. How was I not close family? "I don't understand," I managed, my voice sounding smaller than I intended. "It's just, Madison thought it would be nice to have a more intimate gathering today. You know how crowded it gets sometimes." Crowded. 7 people around a dining table that seated 12 was crowded. Through the gap between Scarlett and the doorframe, I caught a glimpse of the dining room. There was Jake, my 19-year-old grandson, laughing at something Madison had said. Madison herself sat at the head of the table, my table, wearing a flowing red dress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Scarlett's husband David was there, along with Madison's parents, who I'd met exactly twice in the 5 years she'd been married to my son-in-law. They were all there. Everyone except me. "Mom." Scarlett's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you okay?" I wasn't okay. I felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart until it stopped beating. But I'd learned long ago not to show weakness in front of my daughter. It only made things worse. "Of course," I said, forcing a smile. "Here, take this." I handed her the cobbler, watching as she accepted it with the same enthusiasm she might show for a parking ticket. "Thanks, Mom. That's really thoughtful." Thoughtful. As if I were a neighbor dropping by uninvited instead of her mother who'd been baking her favorite dessert every month for 3 years. I reached into my purse and pulled out the envelope I'd been carrying for 2 weeks. My hands trembled slightly as I extended it toward her. "What's this?" "Just some paperwork you need to see. Nothing urgent." Scarlett took the envelope absently, her attention already drifting back toward the dining room where someone had just burst into laughter. Probably at another one of Madison's stories about her yoga retreat, or her latest interior design project. "Okay, well, I should get back. Thanks for the cobbler, Mom." She was already closing the door when I found my voice again. "Scarlett." "Yeah. Next time just tell me not to come. Don't let me waste my time baking and driving over here." Something flickered across her face, surprise, maybe even shame, but it was gone so quickly I might have imagined it. "Mom, it's not like that. It's fine." I cut her off. "Really? I understand perfectly." I turned and walked back to my car, my spine straight and my head held high. But inside I was crumbling. As I pulled out of the driveway of the house I'd called home for 23 years, I caught one last glimpse through the large front window. They were all seated around the mahogany dining table I'd picked out and paid for. Madison was holding court at the head, gesturing dramatically as she told some story. Jake was hanging on her every word. Even David, usually so quiet, was leaning forward with interest. None of them had noticed I was gone. The drive home took forever and no time at all. I kept replaying Scarlett's words, the casual way she dismissed me like I was some acquaintance who dropped by at an inconvenient time. Close family only. The phrase burned in my mind. Back in my small apartment, I sat in Robert's old recliner and let myself remember. 3 years ago, when the grief was still fresh and the silence in our house felt like it might swallow me whole, Scarlett had called with news that changed everything. "Mom, David got the promotion." Can you believe it? Regional manager. Her voice had been electric with excitement. We're finally going to be able to afford a real house. Not some tiny rental. A place where Jake can have friends over. Where we can host holidays properly. I'd been happy for her, truly. After years of struggling, of David working 2 jobs while Scarlett stayed home with Jake, they deserved some good fortune. But then came the reality check. The only problem is the down payment, she'd continued, her voice deflating. We have some savings but not nearly enough for the kind of house we want. The kind of house Jake deserves to grow up in. I should have seen it coming. The subtle hints, the wistful way she talked about other families' homes, the comments about how lucky some people were to have family money to fall back on. Scarlett had always been my dreamer. My child who believed the world owed her something beautiful just for existing. There's this house, Mom. It's perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, big backyard, great neighborhood. Jake would go to Roosevelt Elementary, you know, the one with the gifted program. But the asking price. She trailed off with a sigh that carried the weight of all her disappointed dreams. That night, I'd lain awake thinking about Robert's life insurance policy. $500,000 that was supposed to secure my future, my retirement, my independence. But what kind of future was worth watching my daughter and grandson struggle? The next morning I'd called Scarlett back. What if I bought the house? The silence on the other end had stretched so long I'd wondered if the call had dropped. Mom, what do you mean? I mean, what if I bought the house and you lived in it? You could pay me rent, whatever you can afford. That way Jake gets his good school, you get your dream home. And I get to know my money is helping my family. But even as I'd said it, I'd known Scarlett wouldn't accept charity, not even from her mother. She was too proud, too invested in the image of David as the successful provider. So I'd done what any mother would do, I'd lied. Actually, I've been thinking about downsizing anyway. This place is too big for just me now. If I bought your house, I could use it as an investment property. You'd be doing me a favor, really? The lie had come so easily, wrapped in just enough truth to be believable. I did want to downsize, just not for the reasons I'd given her. And technically it would be an investment, just not the kind that would ever pay me back. Scarlett had cried on the phone that day. Happy tears, grateful tears. She'd called me her guardian angel, her lifesaver. For weeks afterward, she'd introduced me to people as the mom who made our dreams come true. I'd basked in that gratitude, even as I'd signed papers transferring almost my entire life savings to purchase 142 Maple Street. Even as I'd moved from the 4-bedroom house where I'd raised my family to a 1-bedroom apartment across town. Even as I'd watched Scarlett transform from struggling young mother to the woman who hosted elaborate dinner parties and joined the parent council at Roosevelt Elementary. The transition had been gradual. At first, I'd been over constantly, helping with decorating decisions, babysitting Jake, sharing meals. But slowly, so slowly I'd barely noticed, my presence had become less essential. Scarlett had found her tribe among the other Roosevelt parents. Madison had married David's older brother and become Scarlett's new best friend and advisor. I'd become the landlord who never collected rent, the mother who was tolerated rather than treasured. And now I wasn't even that. Now I wasn't close family. The phone call came 3 days later. I almost didn't answer. Scarlett's name on the caller ID made my stomach clench with a mixture of hope and dread. Mom? Hi, it's me. Her voice was different. Strained. I got your paperwork. I'd been waiting for this call ever since I'd handed her that envelope. The eviction notice had been carefully prepared by my lawyer, official and legally binding. 30 days to vacate the premises. Oh, that. Yes, I thought you should see it. Mom, I don't understand. This says you're evicting us from our house. That doesn't make sense. Our house. Even now, faced with legal documents proving otherwise, she couldn't accept the truth. It's not your house, Scarlett. It never was. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I could hear Madison's voice in the background, sharp and demanding. What is she saying? Let me see those papers. Mom, this has to be some kind of mistake. We've lived here for 3 years. This is Jake's home. You can't just. I can, and I am. The words came out harder than I'd intended, but I was tired of being gentle. Tired of cushioning every truth to protect feelings that were never extended back to me. But why? What did we do wrong? What did they do wrong? The question almost made me laugh, But there was nothing funny about it. Where did I even begin? Do you remember Jake's birthday party last month? I asked instead of answering directly. What does that have to do with anything? Do you remember it, Scarlett? A pause. Yes, of course I remember it. It was wonderful. Jake had such a good time. I wasn't invited to that either. Mom, that was different. It was just kids from school and a few parents. You wouldn't have enjoyed it anyway. All the parents were talking about college prep and sports leagues. Not really your thing. Not really my thing. My own grandson's birthday party wasn't my thing. What about Easter dinner? Another pause. That was... Madison offered to host. Her dining room is bigger. Christmas morning? Mom, you're being ridiculous. You spent Christmas morning with us. I spent Christmas afternoon with you. After you'd opened all the presents. After Jake had played with his new toys for hours. After you'd had your special Christmas breakfast. I got the leftovers of the day. Just like I get the leftovers of everything else. I could hear Madison's voice getting closer, more insistent. Then she was on the phone. Diane? What's this nonsense about eviction papers? Are you having some sort of episode? Should we be concerned about your mental state? My mental state. The woman had known me for 5 years and she was questioning my mental state. Madison, please put Scarlett back on the phone. I think we need to have a serious conversation about what's really going on here. This whole eviction thing is obviously some kind of cry for attention. Maybe we should look into assisted living options for you. There are some very nice facilities. Put my daughter on the phone. Now. The authority in my own voice surprised me. It must have surprised Madison too, because she handed the phone back without another word. Mom. Scarlett's voice was small now, uncertain. I want you to think about the last 6 months, sweetheart. Really think. How many times have I been included in family plans? How many times have I been told about gatherings after they've happened? How many times have you asked my opinion about decisions involving the house I own? It's not that simple. Madison has such good taste, and she knows more about these things than your mother who raised you and decorated 3 homes in her lifetime? That's not what I meant. But it was exactly what she meant. It was what she'd meant every time she'd deferred to Madison's judgment over mine. Every time she'd accepted Madison's version of what was appropriate, what was suitable, what was best for the family. Do you know what Madison calls me behind my back? I asked quietly. Mom, please don't. She calls me the old bag. Jake told me. He thought it was funny because he didn't understand it was meant to be cruel. Your son has heard his aunt call his grandmother an old bag, and you've never corrected her. The silence that followed was the longest yet. In the background I could hear Madison's voice, urgent and defensive, but I couldn't make out the words. Finally Scarlett spoke. She doesn't mean it like that. She has a different sense of humor. A sense of humor that involves insulting your mother. Mom, you don't understand how stressful things have been. David's job, Jake's school, trying to keep up with everything. Madison helps so much. And if she says things sometimes that come out wrong. She was defending her. Even now, even with eviction papers in her hand, she was defending the woman who called her mother names. They showed up at my apartment the next evening. I watched from my window as David's SUV pulled into the parking lot. Madison's pink Mini Cooper right behind it. They'd brought reinforcements. The knock on my door was sharp, impatient. When I opened it, Scarlett pushed past me without invitation, Madison close behind. David lingered in the doorway, looking uncomfortable, while Jake hung back by the cars. Mom, we need to talk. Scarlett's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. This whole eviction thing has gone far enough. Madison surveyed my small living room with obvious distaste, her gaze lingering on Robert's old recliner and the mismatched furniture I'd kept from our previous home. So this is where you've been hiding out. Cozy. The way she said cozy made it sound like an insult. Please sit down. I gestured toward the sofa. Would anyone like coffee? We're not here for coffee, Mom. Scarlett remained standing, the eviction notice clutched in her hand. We're here because you're trying to throw us out of our home for no reason. It's not your home. Yes, it is. The words exploded out of her. We've lived there for 3 years. Jake's bedroom, his friends, his school, everything is there. Madison crossed her arms, fixing me with a cold stare. Honestly, Diane, this whole thing is completely unhinged. You can't just decide you own someone's house because you're having some sort of senior moment. Senior moment? I felt my own anger rising. Is that what you call it when someone presents legal documents proving those papers could be fake? Madison said with the confidence of someone who'd never been wrong about anything. Anyone can print official-looking documents these days. David finally spoke up from the doorway. Madison, maybe we should hear what Diane has to say. His wife turned on him with the fury of a woman used to having her opinions accepted without question. Don't tell me you're buying into this nonsense too. I'm not buying into anything. I'm just saying we should listen. I walked to my bedroom and returned with a manila folder thick with documents. Bank statements, purchase agreements, property tax records, insurance policies. 3 years of paperwork that told the story Madison didn't want to believe. Here. I set the folder on the coffee table. Everything's there. The mortgage application, the deed transfer, the payment records. Every document is real. Every signature notarized. Scarlett dropped into the nearest chair as if her legs had given out. She opened the folder with trembling hands, David moving to look over her shoulder. The purchase price was $475,000, I said quietly. I paid cash. No mortgage, no loan. Just the life insurance money from your father's death. Madison snatched a bank statement from Scarlett's hands. This doesn't prove anything. You could have forged. Call the bank. I pulled out my phone. Here's the number. Ask them about account transfers from Robert Matthews' life insurance policy to Diane Matthews' checking account. Ask them about the cashier's check made out to Suburban Realty for the full purchase price of 142 Maple Street. The room fell silent except for the sound of pages turning as Scarlett and David examined document after document. Madison stood frozen, the bank statement still in her hand. Her face pale with the dawning realization that her whole world was built on a foundation she'd never bothered to verify. Why? Scarlett's voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you tell us? Because I knew you wouldn't accept help. You were so proud of David's promotion. So excited about providing a real home for Jake. I didn't want to take that away from you. So you lied to us. I protected your pride. Madison found her voice again, shrill with desperation. This is emotional manipulation. You can't just spring this on us now 3 years later. There have to be laws about this kind of thing. Tenant rights something. There are, I agreed. Which is why I'm giving you 30 days notice instead of the minimum 15. 30 days. Scarlett looked up from the papers, her eyes wide with panic. Mom, we can't find a new place in 30 days. Not with Jake's school, not with our budget. We can't afford what we've been living in. That's not my problem anymore. The words came out colder than I'd intended, but I meant them. For 3 years their problems had been my problems. Their needs had come before mine. Their comfort had mattered more than my dignity. Madison's composure finally cracked completely. You bitter old woman. You're destroying this family because you're jealous that Scarlett has a real life, real friends, real happiness. Madison. David's voice was sharp with warning, but she was beyond caring about diplomacy. No, David, someone needs to say it. She's jealous because Scarlett doesn't need her anymore. She's jealous because Jake has other people in his life who actually matter. She's a pathetic old woman who can't stand that the world moved on without her. The silence that followed was deafening. Even Madison seemed shocked by her own words. Scarlett stared at her sister-in-law with something approaching horror. I stood up slowly, my voice deadly calm. Get out. Mom, Scarlett started. All of you. Get out of my apartment. They left without another word. Madison's face flushed with shame. David's arm around Scarlett's shoulders as she sobbed. Through my window I watched them stand by their cars in the parking lot, arguing in whispers while Jake waited, confused and scared. That night I called my lawyer and asked him to expedite the eviction process. The calls started at 6 in the morning. My phone rang every 15 minutes for 3 hours straight. Scarlett, then Madison, then David, then Madison again. I let them all go to voicemail. By noon, when the messages stopped coming, I finally listened to them. Mom, please, we need to talk. I'm sorry about what Madison said. She didn't mean it. We can work this out. Scarlett's voice was hoarse from crying. Diane, I apologize for my outburst yesterday. I was shocked and said things I shouldn't have. Can we please discuss this like adults? Madison's tone was carefully controlled, but I could hear the desperation underneath. Diane, it's David. Look, I know we've had our differences over the years, but Jake doesn't deserve this. He's just a kid. Please don't punish him for our mistakes. Jake. They were using my grandson as emotional leverage, just like I'd known they would. The doorbell rang that afternoon. Through the peephole, I saw Jake standing alone on my doorstep, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, his shoulders hunched with the weight of a conversation he was too young to be having. I opened the door and my heart cracked at the sight of his red-rimmed eyes. Grandma? Can I come in? I stepped aside and he shuffled past me, collapsing onto my sofa like a deflated balloon. At 19 he was all arms and legs, still growing into his height, but right now he looked like the little boy who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms. Mom sent you, I said. It wasn't a question. He nodded miserably. She said you're making us move out of our house. She said you've been lying to us for 3 years. I sat down beside him, close enough to touch but not quite touching. What do you think about that? I don't know what to think. His voice cracked on the words. Everything's so messed up. Mom won't stop crying. Aunt Madison keeps saying you've lost your mind, and Dad just sits there looking angry at everyone. What about you? Are you angry at me? Jake was quiet for a long moment, picking at a loose thread on his jeans. When he finally looked up, his eyes were older than they'd been a week ago. I'm confused. If the house is really yours, why didn't you ever say anything? Why did you let us think it was ours? Because I wanted you to be happy. I wanted your mom to be proud of what she built. But she didn't build it. You did. The simple truth from a 19-year-old cut deeper than all of Madison's accusations and Scarlett's tears. Yeah, I said quietly. I did. So why are you kicking us out now? What changed? How could I explain to him that I was tired of being invisible? That I was exhausted from being treated like a burden by the people who lived in the house I'd bought for them? That his mother had chosen Madison's opinions over mine so many times I'd lost count? Your mom and I see things differently about what family means, I said finally. Jake nodded like this made perfect sense to him. She's been different since Aunt Madison married Uncle David. Everything has to be perfect all the time. The house, the parties, the way things look. It's exhausting. I blinked in surprise. You've noticed that? I'm not blind, Grandma. I see how she treats you. How they both do. He met my eyes. I asked her once why you never eat dinner with us anymore when everyone else comes over. She said you preferred to eat alone. I don't prefer to eat alone. I know. His voice was soft. I've always known. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Jake spoke again. If I ask you something, will you tell me the truth? Always. Are you doing this because you're hurt? Or because you really need us to move? The question was so direct, so unflinchingly honest, that I felt tears spring to my eyes. This boy, this young man, had seen through to the heart of everything in a way the adults in his life never had. Both, I admitted. I need to sell the house, Jake. Living on Social Security isn't enough, and I used almost everything I had to buy it. But yes, I'm also hurt. I'm tired of being treated like I don't matter. He nodded again, accepting this with the matter-of-fact wisdom of someone who'd grown up watching family dynamics play out. Will you still be my grandma after we move? The question broke something inside me. Oh, sweetheart. Of course I will. You're my grandson. Nothing will ever change that. Even if Mom doesn't want me to see you? I hesitated. Your mom loves you. She'll come around. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it. Scarlett had a talent for holding grudges, for painting herself as the victim in any situation that didn't go her way. Would she use Jake as a weapon against me? Would she poison him against me the way she'd already started poisoning herself? Jake seemed to read my thoughts. I'm 19, Grandma. She can't stop me from seeing you if I want to. The next morning, I found an envelope slipped under my door. Inside was a handwritten letter from Scarlett, her neat cursive flowing across 3 pages of expensive stationery. Mom, I've been thinking all night about what Jake told me after he came to see you. He said you think we don't appreciate you, that we take you for granted. Maybe that's true. Maybe we've gotten so caught up in our own lives that we forgot how much you've sacrificed for us. I'm asking you to reconsider the eviction. Not for me or David or even Madison, but for Jake. This is his senior year. His friends are here, his job, his whole life. Please don't make him pay for our mistakes. I promise things will be different. We'll include you more, value your opinion, treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Just please give us another chance. I love you, Scarlett. I read the letter 3 times, looking for sincerity behind the carefully chosen words. But all I could hear was Madison's voice coaching her on what to write, David suggesting which emotional buttons to push. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. The moving truck pulled away from 142 Maple Street on a Thursday morning in late September. I watched from my car as Scarlett stood on the front lawn, surrounded by boxes and furniture, looking lost and small in a way I hadn't seen since she was a child. Madison paced beside her, phone pressed to her ear, frantically trying to coordinate their temporary move to David's parents' basement. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who'd spent 3 years lording her superior taste and judgment over everyone was now reduced to begging for space in someone else's home. Jake carried the last box to their rental truck, his movements efficient and purposeful. He'd helped me pack my own belongings the week before, never once complaining or asking me to change my mind. He understood what the adults in his life couldn't, that some lines once crossed couldn't be uncrossed. The house sold within 2 weeks of listing. A young couple with twin toddlers fell in love with the big backyard and the good school district. The same things that had attracted Scarlett 3 years ago, back when she believed the house was a symbol of everything she'd achieved. With the sale proceeds, I bought a small cottage 20 minutes outside town. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a kitchen that got morning sunlight and a garden where I could grow tomatoes and herbs. It was everything I needed and nothing I didn't. Jake visited me there for the first time on a Saturday in October, bringing coffee and donuts from the bakery near his college campus. "How are you settling in?" he asked, looking around my new living room with genuine interest. "Good. Really good." And I meant it. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like I was in my own space, surrounded by things I'd chosen because I liked them, not because they passed someone else's approval. "And how's your mom?" Jake's expression grew complicated. "She's adjusting. Dad found them a rental house in a different school district. Smaller than what they're used to, but it's theirs. Well, the banks, but you know what I mean." "And Madison?" "She's having a harder time with it. She keeps talking about how this whole situation could have been avoided if everyone had just been more reasonable." I almost smiled. Even in defeat, Madison couldn't accept responsibility. It was always someone else's fault, someone else's unreasonableness. "She's not wrong," I said. "If everyone had been more reasonable 3 years ago, we might never have gotten to this point." Jake studied my face. "Do you regret it? Any of it?" I thought about it carefully. Did I regret buying the house? No. I'd wanted to help my family, and I had. Did I regret keeping it secret? Maybe. The deception had protected Scarlett's pride, but it had also enabled her to take my sacrifice for granted. Did I regret evicting them? No, I said finally. I don't regret it. Even though Mom might never forgive you? Jake, your mother made her choice a long time ago. She chose Madison's opinion over mine, Madison's comfort over my dignity, Madison's version of family over the one that included me. I finally just stopped pretending that choice hadn't been made. He nodded slowly. I think I understand. Do you? You taught her that your love was unconditional, that no matter how she treated you, you'd always be there, always sacrifice, always put her needs first. So she never learned to value what you gave, because she never thought she could lose it. My grandson's insight took my breath away. At 19, he understood relationship dynamics that had taken me 66 years to recognize. Will you keep seeing me? I asked. Even if it upsets your mom? Grandma, you're the only adult in this family who's ever been completely honest with me. Why would I stop seeing you now? Spring came early that year. By March, my garden was already showing green shoots, and I'd started volunteering at the local library's literacy program. I was teaching adults to read, mostly women my age or older who'd never had the chance to learn properly. It felt good to be useful again, to have my knowledge and experience valued. Jake graduated from community college in May with an associate degree in computer programming. The ceremony was small, held in the school's gymnasium, But when I watched him walk across that stage, I felt prouder than I had in years. Scarlett and David were there too, sitting several rows behind me. We didn't speak, but when Jake's name was called, I saw her wiping away tears. Whatever else had happened between us, she loved her son. That had never been in question. After the ceremony, Jake found me in the parking lot. "Grandma, there's something I want to tell you." "What's that, sweetheart?" "I got a job. Full-time with benefits. I start next month." "That's wonderful. I'm so proud of you." "I'm moving out of Mom and Dad's place. Getting my own apartment." I felt a flutter of excitement for him, mixed with something else. "How does your mom feel about that?" "She's not happy about it, but she'll be okay. The thing is..." He paused, looking suddenly uncertain. "I was wondering if you'd help me pick out furniture. You have such good taste, and I trust your judgment." "Trust your judgment." When was the last time someone in my family had said those words to me? "I'd love to help," I said, and meant it completely. That night, alone in my cottage with a cup of tea and a book I was reading for pleasure, not because someone else thought I should, I realized something profound. I was happy. Not the conditional happiness that depended on other people's approval or the exhausted satisfaction of duty fulfilled, but genuine contentment. I'd lost a daughter, maybe permanently, but I'd gained something more valuable: respect for myself and the knowledge that I deserved better than scraps from other people's tables. Outside my window, the tomato plants I'd started from seed were already showing tiny green fruit. By summer, they'd be heavy with harvest. It felt like a promise of good things to come.